You are not listening to this by accident. Something has been calling you quietly, insistently, beneath the noise of your daily life. And now, as we approach 2026, that whisper has become a pulse you can feel in your body, a knowing you cannot ignore. You are standing at the threshold of a quantum opening that not everyone will recognize. But you will, because you've been sensing the shift long before it was spoken. You're here now for one reason. The biggest transformation of your life is awakening, and it will reveal itself the moment you choose to activate what I'm about to share. The field has already rearranged around you, and the truth is, you've been feeling it long before you had the language to explain it. There have been moments, quiet, fleeting, easy to dismiss, when you sensed something shifting beneath the surface of your life. A strange pull, a sudden clarity, a soft but persistent intuition that something was reorganizing itself on your behalf. And the reason it felt so subtle is because quantum change always begins in silence. It never announces itself with fireworks. It arrives as a whisper, a nudge, a pattern you keep noticing but can't quite explain. What's been happening is not random. It is resonance. Every thought you've had over the past months, every emotion you've allowed yourself to feel, every decision, even the ones that felt small or unimportant, has been sending signals into the quantum field. You may not realize it, but you've been in conversation with reality, and the field has been responding, rearranging, reorganizing, aligning, not in front of you but around you. Long before you see the outward shift, the energy architecture of your life shifts first. This is why your relationships have felt different, why old habits suddenly feel heavier than they used to, why certain situations that once felt comfortable now feel strangely out of alignment. You're not losing your old life, your energy is outgrowing it. What's unfolding in 2026 is not a new shift, it's the revelation of the shift that already began. Think of it like walking into a room that was restructured while you were away. When you step inside, everything feels different, but the transformation happened before you arrived. That is exactly where you are now. You are arriving at a reality that has been preparing itself for you, waiting for you to catch up, waiting for you to notice that you're not stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into what you've already chosen on a deeper, often unconscious level. The universe doesn't wait for your conscious mind to figure everything out. It listens to your emotional signatures, your unspoken longings, the silent requests you made through your desires, your heartbreaks, your breakthroughs, your moments of surrender. Those were the real prayers, and the field heard you long before you had the courage to admit what you truly wanted. That is why, lately, certain opportunities have appeared suddenly, or old paths have become blocked, or people have drifted out of your life with surprising ease. Nothing is collapsing, things are rearranging with precision. You see, quantum shifts don't follow logic, they follow coherence. They follow the truth of your energy, not the stories you've been telling yourself. And even when you thought nothing was happening, even when you felt stuck or uncertain, the deeper layers of your being were already aligning with a new frequency. You didn't need to know how it would happen. Your energy did the work for you. This is the paradox of becoming. You evolve before you realize you've evolved. You shift before you see the shift. The transformation completes itself internally long before your life catches up externally. And here's the part most people misunderstand. The early signs of a quantum shift often feel like confusion. They feel like restlessness, like endings, like emotional waves rising without explanation. Because you can't enter a new timeline while holding on to the emotional weight of the old one. When the field rearranges, it pulls you toward what you're becoming, and away from what no longer matches your frequency. That pull can feel like discomfort, but in truth it's guidance. It's alignment disguised as uncertainty. It's your future self tugging on the threads of your present life. You may think you've been waiting for the universe, but the universe has been waiting for you. Waiting for you to notice the breadcrumb trail it's been laying at your feet. Waiting for you to recognize that the intuitive nudges you've been receiving are not coincidences, they're invitations. Every synchronicity has been a signal. Every moment of déjà vu has been a reminder. Every internal nudge has been a doorway. The reason 2026 feels so significant is because it marks the moment when what has been shifting internally becomes visible externally. The scaffolding is already built. The blueprint is already encoded in your energy. The paths, the connections, the breakthroughs, they are not forming in 2026. They are being revealed. Manifestation is never linear. It's architectural. It's the invisible arranging itself until it becomes undeniable. And you are moments away from seeing the evidence of everything you've already aligned with. The field is not preparing you for the shift. It already shifted. Now it's preparing you to recognize it. You're not on the verge of change. You're standing inside the changed reality, and the only thing left is for your awareness to rise high enough to see it. This is why you feel the way you do. Something inside you is awakening to what has already happened. You are not walking toward your new life. Your new life is walking toward you, trying to make itself known, trying to be felt before it's fully seen. And when you understand that, you'll realize something powerful. The biggest quantum shift of your life isn't ahead of you. It's happening right now, wrapping itself around you, infusing itself into every moment, waiting for you to claim what has already been set in motion. And as this shift unfolds, something even more profound becomes clear. The timeline you step into in 2026 is not chosen by your intentions, your wishes, or even your discipline. It is chosen by your identity, not the identity you show others, not the identity shaped by your past, but the identity you quietly hold within yourself, the one your energy broadcasts long before your mind catches up. You see, the universe doesn't respond to effort, it responds to essence. And essence is simply who you are being in this moment. Identity is the frequency you emit without trying. It's the emotional signature you hold when no one is watching. It's the assumptions you make about yourself when the world is silent. You might think you need to visualize harder or think more positive thoughts, but reality doesn't reorganize itself around your thoughts. It reorganizes itself around the identity from which those thoughts arise. This is why some people manifest effortlessly while others struggle, not because they're luckier or more deserving, but because their identity is already aligned with the life they're stepping into. Their energy matches the timeline they desire. And here's the paradox: you don't become the person who lives your dream life after you achieve it. You enter that reality because your energy begins behaving like someone who already has it. Identity is not the effect of manifestation, it is the cause. The moment you shift who you are being on the inside, the quantum field shifts the probabilities around you on the outside. Not slowly, instantly. Sometimes so subtly that you don't realize the shift has happened until life reflects it back to you in ways that feel miraculous, coincidental, or perfectly timed. You may have already been experiencing this without realizing it. Think about the moments recently when you reacted differently than you would have a year ago, the times you didn't shrink, the decisions where you trusted yourself instead of doubting, the boundaries you set without guilt. These are not small changes, they are identity markers. They indicate that you are already slipping out of the frequency of your old self, and the quantum field is responding to the emergence of a new one. Identity shifts are like energetic signatures. They resonate outward, recalibrating reality in ways the mind can barely comprehend. And yet identity is not created through force. You cannot bully yourself into becoming who you want to be. You cannot pressure yourself, shame yourself, or demand a transformation. The true identity shift happens when you stop trying to become and start remembering who you actually are beneath the layers of conditioning, wounds, expectations, and survival patterns. Identity is not added, it is uncovered. It emerges when you release the versions of yourself that you adopted out of fear, protection, or habit. When you let those versions fall away, what remains is the identity that matches the timeline you were always meant to walk. This is why 2026 feels so significant for you. The veil between who you've been and who you're becoming is thinner than ever. You are in a liminal space, no longer fully aligned with your old identity, but not yet fully inhabiting the new one. And that in-between space can feel confusing. Sometimes it feels like you're acting out of character, or like your desires are shifting faster than you can make sense of. But this is not instability, it is emergence. It is your future self integrating into your current reality. Think of it like tuning a radio. When you shift the dial even slightly, the static changes, the sound becomes clearer, and suddenly a new frequency emerges. You didn't make the station appear, it was always there. You just finally aligned with it. Your identity works the same way. When you shift your internal frequency, you tune into a reality that already exists, one you couldn't access while broadcasting an older version of yourself. And perhaps what you haven't realized yet is that identity is shaped most powerfully by your consistent choices, not your occasional efforts. Every time you choose clarity over doubt, you shift your identity. Every time you choose alignment over approval, you shift your identity. Every time you choose the future version of yourself over the familiar patterns of your past, you shift your identity. These choices accumulate. They build momentum. They bend your timeline without you even noticing. And before you know it, you're standing inside a life that feels radically different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The truth is, timelines don't exist externally, they exist internally. You walk into a new reality the moment your identity becomes incompatible with the old one. And this is exactly why your life has felt strange lately, why you can't go back to old habits, why certain people feel distant, why old dreams don't excite you the way they once did. You're not losing your identity, you're outgrowing it. The version of you that belonged to your old timeline is dissolving, and the version that belongs to your next one is rising. So when 2026 arrives, it won't magically transform you. You will transform it. You will meet it with the identity you've been quietly forming in your heart, in your energy, in your soul. And that version of you, the real you, is already aligned with a timeline that feels bigger, freer, more authentic, and more aligned than anything you've experienced before. The shift has already begun, and your identity is the key that unlocks the door to the reality waiting for you. And as you feel this emerging identity settling into your energy, there is another truth rising alongside it, one that most people overlook because they're too busy trying to think their way into a new life. The universe is not listening to your thoughts, it's listening to your nervous system. It listens to the frequency beneath your words, beneath your affirmations, beneath your intentions. You can speak abundance all day long, but if your body is broadcasting fear, the field responds to the fear. You can visualize your dream life beautifully, but if your nervous system is locked in survival, the field organizes around survival. This is the great paradox. The mind can lie, but the body cannot. Your nervous system is the real manifestation tool because it is the transmitter of your true signal. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. And what you are is encoded in your emotional baseline, your physiological state, the internal rhythm you move through the world with. When your body feels safe, open, regulated, and coherent, the field interprets that as a green light. It concludes, you are ready, you are aligned, you can receive. But when your body is tense, braced, overwhelmed, or contracted, the universe receives a very different instruction. Not yet, not safe, still holding the past. And this is where so many people misunderstand manifestation. They think their desires are being blocked. They think the universe is withholding. They think they're doing something wrong, but nothing is wrong. The field is simply responding to the emotional information your body is sending. The truth is, you don't manifest what you think. You manifest what your nervous system can handle. Your body is the bridge between the internal and the external, between the unseen and the seen. If the bridge is tense, narrow, protective, nothing new can cross it. If the bridge softens, widens, stabilizes, the entire timeline opens. You may not realize it, but your nervous system has been shifting in subtle ways these past months. Maybe you've noticed moments of calm that feel deeper than anything you've experienced before, or sudden clarity that washes through you without reason, or an unusual sense of peace during situations that would have once triggered anxiety. These are signs of coherence, signs that your inner landscape is reorganizing, signs that your body is learning to trust the frequency of your future more than the patterns of your past. This is not accidental, it is preparation. The field has tuned itself to the signal of your next timeline, and your nervous system is adjusting to meet it. People often think the biggest breakthroughs come from strategy or effort, but real transformation happens when your body stops expecting the past to repeat itself. Trauma, patterns, learned survival. They all teach the body to brace for what it once experienced, not what is possible. So when old fears arise, when emotions surge, when memories resurface, it doesn't mean you're regressing. It means your nervous system is releasing old frequencies so it can match a new reality. This is why emotional waves can feel intense during a quantum shift. You're not breaking, you're unbinding. The body works in paradox. It softens when you stop forcing. It heals when you stop pushing. It opens when you stop trying to control. And when your body opens, truly opens, you become magnetic, not metaphorically, literally. A coherent nervous system emits a frequency that organizes matter, opportunities, people, and timing with incredible precision. This is why certain people seem to attract exactly what they want with effortlessness. Their bodies are not at war with their desires. Their nervous systems are not broadcasting danger when they imagine expansion. Imagine what becomes possible when your body is no longer bracing for impact, when your heart is no longer guarded, when your breath is no longer shallow, when your energy is no longer negotiating between the life you want and the memories you're still carrying. That is when manifestation becomes natural, organic, inevitable, not because you are trying, but because you are allowing. And this is the secret most people never understand. The universe accelerates when your body relaxes. The more at ease you become, the faster things align. Not ease as in laziness, but ease as in trust. Safety, inner stability. The quantum field interprets safety as readiness. It interprets relaxation as openness. You manifest not when you are tense and striving, but when you are expansive, grounded, receptive. This is why 2026 will be such a powerful year for you. Your nervous system is already shifting toward coherence. You may not have noticed the full extent of it yet, but it's happening beneath your awareness. Tiny calibrations, micro-healings, subtle openings. Every moment of silence, every breath you've taken to calm yourself, every time you've chosen peace over panic, you've been preparing your body to become a transmitter of a new frequency. And when your body and the quantum field finally match, when your nervous system settles into the reality you've been calling forward, life no longer resists you. Because reality can only mirror the vibration you've stabilized, not the one you're chasing, not the one you're hoping for, the one you've become. And you are becoming something extraordinary. And as your nervous system grows more coherent, more open, more attuned to the frequency of the future you've already begun stepping into, there is a point where the shift asks something deeper of you, something quieter but far more powerful than effort or intention. It asks you to let go, not to abandon what you want, not to release your desires, but to unclench the emotional patterns, the identities, the old versions of yourself that you've outgrown but still carry out of habit. Letting go is not losing anything. Letting go is clearing the interference between you and the timeline that has already formed around you. But letting go is also a paradox. It's not something the mind can force. You can't command yourself to release a pattern through willpower. True letting go happens when your energy recognizes that a past version of you no longer fits the frequency of where you're going. It's like shedding a skin, not because you dislike the old one, but because your growth makes it too tight to inhabit. And you've felt this, haven't you? The heaviness of certain habits, the outdated emotional reactions that feel borrowed from a self you barely recognize, the subtle discomfort in situations that used to feel normal. These are not coincidences, they're signals. They're the energetic indicators that what once supported you is now compressing you. People often think letting go is an act of surrender, but it's actually an act of alignment. It's the release of everything that can't travel with you into your next timeline. And the fascinating thing is that the universe tries to help you with this process. That's why things fall apart before they fall into place. Why people drift away without conflict, why certain opportunities close just as new ones appear. You might interpret these changes as loss, but they're actually recalibrations. They're the field guiding you away from frequencies that no longer resonate with your becoming. Letting go is your activation switch, because it signals to the universe that you trust the timeline forming around you. It tells the field, I'm ready for something new. I'm willing to release what no longer carries the vibration of my future. Trust is not about believing everything will work out. Trust is recognizing when something has reached completion. And completion is not failure, it's alignment in motion. The truth is, most people struggle with letting go because their identity is entangled with the very things they're meant to release. A belief that once kept you safe becomes a barrier. A relationship that once taught you love becomes an anchor. A dream that once inspired you becomes a ceiling. But you're not meant to drag your past into your future. You're meant to take the lessons, the wisdom, the strength, and leave the emotional residue behind. Letting go is not forgetting the past, it's no longer living from it. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the things you're meant to release have started to feel heavier. Not painful, just dense, restrictive, misaligned. That's your energy telling you this is complete. You don't have to let go with force. You simply stop carrying what doesn't feel like you anymore. You'll notice conversations where you don't resonate, roles that feel unnatural, habits that feel out of rhythm. This internal dissonance is not dysfunction, it's evolution. It's your frequency shifting ahead of your attachments. There's also a profound kindness in letting go, because when you release what doesn't belong to your next chapter, you give those parts of your life permission to evolve too. Nothing is being taken from you. You're creating space. Space for alignment, space for clarity, space for the version of yourself who doesn't need the old emotional patterns to feel safe. The universe doesn't fill crowded rooms. It fills open ones. And every time you release something, even a belief, even a fear, you create the space where your future can land. And here's the most mystical part, letting go doesn't weaken your manifestation, it accelerates it. Because attachment is a vibrational signal of lack, but release is a signal of abundance. Attachment says, I need this to feel safe. Letting go says, I trust that something aligned will replace this. The moment you release what doesn't match your next frequency, the field responds instantly. Opportunities appear, synchronicities multiply, people show up, pathways open. Not because you forced the shift, but because you removed the resistance to it. And you might have already felt the beginnings of this. The little moments where you chose peace over proving yourself, where you didn't react to something that would have triggered you before, where you walked away from what drained you instead of trying to fix it. These aren't small behaviors, they're energetic declarations. They're the future version of you making decisions through your present body. They're the steps that make space for the biggest quantum shift of your life. Letting go is not a collapse, it is a rise. It is not the end of your story, it is the clearing of the page so the next chapter can finally be written. And the moment you release what no longer resonates, the universe rushes in to meet you at the level of your new frequency. Because the shift doesn't start when you add something new. It starts the moment you let go of what no longer belongs to the person you are becoming. And as you release the weight of what no longer resonates with who you're becoming, something else awakens, something subtle but transformative. You begin to notice the environment you've been living in, not just physically but energetically. The spaces you inhabit, the conversations you entertain, the habits you repeat, the people who orbit your life. All of it forms an ecosystem that either nurtures the frequency of your future or reinforces the patterns of your past. Most people never realize how much their environment anchors their identity, how much it shapes the rhythm of their energy, how easily it can pull them back into versions of themselves they've already outgrown. But you are not most people. You're awakening to the magnetic truth that your external world must match the vibration you're stepping into, not the one you're leaving behind. And here is the paradox, your environment doesn't just reflect your identity, it stabilizes it. Your surroundings become a container that holds the frequency you're trying to embody. If that container is built from the past, old routines, familiar conversations, spaces filled with memories of who you once were, then it will continually pull you back into that emotional imprint. Even if your mind wants growth, your surroundings whisper, "Stay the same." And without you even noticing, your energy bends backwards. But the moment you begin curating your environment intentionally, everything shifts. It's not about perfection. It's not about throwing everything away or burning your old life to the ground. It's about choosing surroundings that support the version of yourself who already exists within you, the version you've been meeting in your intuitions, your dreams, your quiet moments of clarity. When you align your environment with your becoming, your identity has something to anchor itself to. Your nervous system feels safe expanding. Your desires feel possible. Your energy begins to rise to match the space around you. You've probably already sensed the need for this shift. Maybe certain rooms in your home feel heavier than others. Maybe the things you once surrounded yourself with feel outdated or energetically dense. Maybe you felt a nudge to clean, reorganize, simplify, rearrange, not because you feel messy, but because something in you knows your environment must breathe differently now. That's not just spring cleaning. That's your future self trying to enter your present space. The same applies to your social environment. People carry frequency. They hold emotional patterns, belief systems, and identities. And the more time you spend with someone, the more those frequencies mingle with your own. This doesn't mean you cut connections abruptly or judge where others are on their path. It simply means you become aware of resonance. You notice who expands you and who compresses you, who reflects your becoming and who reinforces your becoming small, who speaks to your future and who speaks only to your history. Not everyone can travel with you into your next timeline, and that's not abandonment. It's alignment, it's nature, it's evolution. And then there's the environment of your habits, the invisible architecture of your days, the first thoughts you think in the morning, the energy you place your attention on, the rituals you return to without thinking. These too create an atmosphere around you. They either elevate your frequency or saturate you in emotional residue. When you shift these small, subtle patterns, you shift your entire vibrational baseline. A 5-minute practice of grounding your breath can change the trajectory of your day. Choosing silence over chaos can recalibrate your entire identity. A single intentional action can tilt the quantum field around you, because consistency, not intensity, is what rewires reality. The mystery is that your environment doesn't just influence you, you influence it back. Every time you upgrade something in your space, even something small, your field responds. Every time you create a corner that feels peaceful, your energy expands into it. Every time you choose to surround yourself with things that reflect who you're becoming, you amplify the timeline you're aligning with. Your environment is a manifestation tool. It's a mirror, a stabilizer, a frequency amplifier. And this is why stepping into 2026 requires a kind of sacred stewardship of your surroundings, not out of pressure but out of recognition that your outer world must hold the vibration of your inner transformation. When you create an environment that matches your future, you collapse the distance between now and then. You stop waiting for the shift to come from outside. You become the source of it. Look around your life, and you'll begin to notice what feels alive and what feels expired, what expands you and what contracts you, what feels like a portal into your becoming and what feels like a relic from a past identity. Letting go of these things is not loss, it's resonance, and welcoming new elements into your space is not indulgence, it's coherence. When your environment aligns with your evolution, your life has no choice but to reflect your transformation. Not because you forced the shift, but because you built the world that your next-level self naturally lives in. Your external reality begins to bend around your inner truth, and suddenly the timeline you've been sensing, the one that feels bigger, clearer, freer, can finally take form around you. And now, as we move into this final revelation, notice how something inside you has already shifted without you trying to make it happen. It's almost as if your inner world has been quietly preparing for this moment long before your conscious mind ever caught up. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle hum beneath your thoughts, That quiet knowing that you're on the edge of something far bigger than anything you've stepped into before. And the truth is you are. Because the final revelation isn't about learning something new, it's about remembering something ancient that's been waiting for you to come back to it. Something that has always been yours. Something that has always been calling your name. The real quantum shift doesn't happen when you master the mind, or when you perfect your frequency, or when you break all your patterns. Those are steps, yes, but they're not the destination. The real shift happens when you finally allow yourself to hold the fullness of who you are without running from it, without minimizing it, without apologizing for it. When you stop diluting your power because you're afraid of what it might destroy or afraid of what it might unlock. When you stop pretending you're small just because you've been surrounded by people who couldn't recognize your magnitude. When you stop negotiating your worth with a world that only understands you when you're convenient. The shift begins the moment you stop seeking permission to become the version of you that 2026 is literally engineered to activate. Because here's the paradox. The quantum field doesn't respond to the version of you who's trying. It doesn't respond to the version of you who's reaching, or hoping, or convincing, or waiting for signs. It responds to the version of you who has already become, the version of you who has already chosen, the version of you who is willing to say, "This is who I am now," even before any external proof shows up. This is the final test of the quantum, the willingness to embody the frequency before the evidence exists, without doubting yourself when the world doesn't immediately reflect it back. That is the leap. That is the portal. That is the moment the old timeline releases its grip, and the new one snaps into place like a lock finally turning. And you may be wondering, but how do I embody something I haven't seen yet? The answer is beautifully simple. You don't wait to see it. You let yourself feel it. Feel the version of you who already crossed the threshold. Feel how they walk, how they breathe, how they make decisions without second-guessing themselves. Feel the steadiness in their energy, the quiet authority, the softness that doesn't come from weakness but from absolute inner certainty. The embodiment doesn't need details, it needs willingness. You don't have to know the whole path, you just have to stop stepping out of your own becoming. Do you feel how something inside you recognizes this? How a deeper part of your being is nodding, saying, "Yes, this is the piece I've been missing." Not because you're only discovering it now, but because you've lived your entire life skirting around the edges of this truth. You've gathered enough pain to humble you, enough longing to stretch you, enough wisdom to guide you, and enough inner fire to transform you. But the final shift requires something far more radical, letting all of it integrate instead of fragmenting yourself every time you stand on the brink of expansion. Integration is the final revelation. Unification is the quantum leap. Becoming whole is the gateway. And when you allow that integration, when you let yourself be all of who you are without shrinking or hiding or delaying, the field responds with breathtaking speed. Synchronicities appear not as signs but as confirmations. Opportunities show up not by chance but by resonance. People who match your next level begin entering your life as though summoned. Your external world doesn't slowly rearrange. It reorganizes suddenly, sometimes dramatically, as if everything had been waiting behind an invisible curtain just for this moment. Because it has. The quantum doesn't build your new reality over time. It reveals what was always available once you aligned with it. So here, in this final revelation, I'm not asking you to try harder. I'm asking you to claim yourself. I'm asking you to step into the version of you that 2026 has been waiting to activate. I'm asking you to let go of every outdated identity that has kept you loyal to a smaller you. I'm asking you to trust the remembrance that is rising inside you right now. That deep sense that something in you is finally clicking into place. This is not about predicting your future. This is about realizing you are the one generating it. And as you breathe into this moment, let yourself feel the shift beginning. Not out there, but in here. Because 2026 doesn't change your life. You change your life, and 2026 simply mirrors it back. The biggest quantum shift of your life begins the second you decide to stop waiting for the future and start becoming the one who creates it.